Have you ever wondered why Downton Abbey still fascinates us years later? Why a show about butlers, corsets, and dinner bells feels so alive even today? Well, let's dive into the world that Julian Fellowes built. A universe of satin, sarcasm, and social order, and explore why it still sparkles beneath the weight of history. Julian Fellowes might not be the kind of celebrity most people imagine when they think of creative geniuses. He's a conservative member of the House of Lords, a writer who once penned speeches for politicians, and yet he became one of Britain's most brilliant chroniclers of class and change. His rise began with the 2001 film Gosford Park, a murder mystery set in a grand country house. But it wasn't the corpse or the whodunit that lingered. It was Maggie Smith, her sharp tongue, her perfect disdain, her ability to turn privilege into performance. In her, you see the seed of what would later bloom into Downton Abbey. Who needs the Marvel Universe when you can have the Downton Universe, where every eyebrow raise is a plot twist? That spirit of wit and social observation became the foundation for Downton Abbey. When it premiered in Britain around the same time upstairs, downstairs was being revived, it exploded. The series didn't just tell the story of servants and masters. It made the hierarchy deliciously entertaining. It was elegant, dramatic, and unexpectedly funny. With Maggie Smith at its center, wielding sarcasm like a royal scepter. But here's the secret behind its charm. Downton Abbey doesn't lecture you. It doesn't shout about injustice or revolution. It simply invites you to tea and lets you realize, quietly, cleverly, that the world it shows is on the edge of collapse. Still, it's not blind to nostalgia. The servants adore their masters. The masters feel a tender responsibility for their servants. And that tension between devotion and dependency is the show's emotional heartbeat. For some critics, that's the problem. Downton Abbey doesn't attack the class system. It romanticizes it, but Fellowes knows his history. For many working-class families in early 20th century England, service was considered a mark of respectability. To be a maid, a cook, or a valet in a great house wasn't seen as servitude. It was safety, pride, and stability. My own family, for instance, tells the story of a great aunt who left a tiny council flat for a job at a manor. To her, it wasn't oppression. It was triumph. Then there's Tom Branson, the Irish chauffeur who marries Lady Sybil. He starts out defiant, a socialist ready to dismantle the aristocracy, but by the end, he's practically part of it. That's Fellowes' quiet genius. He lets rebellion exist within the system, only to show how easily it gets absorbed. The show begins with the sinking of the Titanic, a symbol of a crumbling order, and follows the slow, polite revolution that follows. And yet, when all is said and done, the grand house still stands, the titles remain, and everyone bows politely again. The revolution never quite makes it past the drawing room. Still, that's what makes Downton Abbey irresistible. It's rebellion wrapped in etiquette. Tragedy softened by laughter. A reminder that change often arrives not with fire, but with tea and scones. Now, step across the Atlantic, to the Gilded Age, Fellowes' American counterpart to Downton Abbey. Like its British cousin, it begins with a death, but this time in 1880s New York. A young woman enters the old money Van Ryn household and dares to befriend the new money upstarts clawing their way into society. The stakes? Not inheritance or titles, but reputation. What's remarkable about the Gilded Age is that it captures the same tug-of-war between the past and the future, but in a shinier, brasher world. Old wealth versus new wealth, tradition versus ambition. Christine Baranski and Cynthia Nixon bring the dry wit and barbed civility once owned by Maggie Smith. Their duels are verbal, elegant and absolutely savage. And then there's Mrs. Russell, a woman who refuses to be told she doesn't belong. She's based on one of the great Vanderbilt matriarchs, a suffragette, a fighter for women's rights. Her English sister sneers, "We don't want women voting," and she fires back, "Then why should Queen Victoria have the right to rule?" One line. Centuries of rebellion tucked inside it. That's the quiet feminism running through both shows. Beneath the lace and chandeliers, Downton Abbey and the Gilded Age are both stories of women stepping into power. Lady Mary inherits the will of Maggie Smith's Dowager Countess, not her jewels but her authority. She becomes the next matriarch. The torch passes. The world turns. And Fellowes reminds us, progress isn't loud. Sometimes it's whispered across generations. What the Gilded Age also does brilliantly, perhaps better than Downton Abbey, is explore race and class together. Instead of ignoring diversity or adding it superficially, it introduces Peggy Scott, a black journalist navigating 19th century New York. She isn't written as a token or a victim. She's given agency, intelligence, and purpose. Her journey through the segregated South adds complexity and moral depth. It's Fellowes' way of expanding the conversation, of showing that history's grandeur also hides its fractures. And through all this, his storytelling remains deliciously watchable. He combines Britain's two greatest cultural exports, theater and soap opera, and turns them into art. The dialogue is sharp, the timing perfect, and the emotions feel true. Even when nothing happens, the tension hums beneath the surface. Every look, every word, every polite smile carries centuries of class, privilege, and desire. It's no wonder the Gilded Age found its rhythm in later seasons. The first was criticized for being too slow, but the next ones burst alive with scandal, romance, and rebellion. It's dramatic, absurd, and deeply human, just like the world it portrays. So what connects these stories? Downton Abbey, the Gilded Age, Gosford Park, isn't just period detail or costumes. It's Julian Fellowes' obsession with change. He understands that social revolutions rarely look like revolutions. They happen quietly, over dinner tables, between glances, through gossip, love, and loss. And that's why, more than a decade later, we're still drawn to his worlds. Because deep down, we all live in our own kind of Downton Abbey, negotiating class, ambition, and belonging in our own small hierarchies. We may not have titles, but we have roles. We may not have butlers, but we still perform civility for survival. In the end, Fellowes' universe isn't just about satin and bosoms. It's about how people adapt when the world shifts under their feet. It's about grace under pressure, change under chandeliers, and that's what makes his stories, both British and American, feel timeless. And honestly, who wouldn't want to get lost in a world where every scandal is served with a cup of tea?